Hello. Hello, and welcome to the newest episode of the Drive Home Podcast. I'm your host. I am a bit hot, I guess. It's a warm day outside. But anyway, that's besides the point. We've got a lot to talk about. But anyway, let's drive this podcast home. So I say we've got a lot to talk about because since last we did one of these, for me anyway, the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct happened. And boy oh boy, are there lots of opinions. Lots and lots of them. And there's also some direct misinformation going around, which will hopefully be cleared up by the time this comes out, considering how far behind in the timeline this is. So today is the 4th. Just to key you in as to how long it's been since the Switch 2 Direct has happened. And as I guess relatively surmised, the Switch 2 comes out this summer, right at the beginning of it. I thought it would come out at some point this summer. I wasn't sure if it was going to be at the beginning. But Nintendo doesn't like to wait, so that makes sense. But anyway, the very big, very general consensus from lots of people is that the Switch 2 is too expensive in feasibly every way, which is wrong. The key points I want to go over is 1, the Switch 2 itself, a very reasonable price for what it does and what it is going to be able to do. Anyone who says that $450 for what is essentially a next gen console, you're just wrong. It's no computer, but it's not gonna I'm fairly certain they've caught up in terms of console and graphics and whatnot. I mean, 4K in display mode, I don't know if there's anything beyond 4K. I've never really been one for graphics are the most important thing that matter. I really just care about the frame rate not dropping, so I can play games. And if the game happens to be, one that happens to look pretty good, then so be it, But, it's one of those things where people seem... And I don't think there's too many people who are complaining about the console's price itself. Though, the next issue is some of the accessories for the Switch 2. So... for those who didn't see it, so the Switch 2 is coming out. It comes with Joy-Cons. So everything all the prices for essentially everything have gone up by $10 in terms of accessories and such. Which means I think Pro controllers are $80 now, maybe $90. I don't know. Though the good thing about the new Pro controllers is that. So for one, personally, I really like the Switch Pro controllers. I think they did a really good job with them. And the Switch 2 Pro controllers are even better because, get this, they have an audio port, or an audio jack, and they have a C button, like the Joy-Cons. And they come with programmable G buttons, or whatever. I think, they're called G buttons, right? Something about that, I guess. And I assume since Nintendo's putting in programmable buttons, that they're going to be making games with controls that you can program. So you don't have to program them outside of the Switch. So I think the controller, while kind of pricey, in terms of overall quality, it's a steal compared to the Switch One's controller. Those ones are kind of iffy. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're good, but like I don't know. They could be better, and they are better, right? Because now they have an audio jack. I think there might be some other things that they have as well. No, I guess that wouldn't have been it. They have the buttons on the back. They have the audio jack and the C button. So the C button for the Switch 2 is a chat feature. It essentially has like a mini Discord built into it, but it's not Discord. It's tied to your Nintendo account, and you can, as far as we've seen, you can talk with up to 4 friends in total, including yourself in that. So, you and 3 other people. Once the Switch 2 comes out for the next, I guess, 8 or so, roughly months, I guess, you'll be able to use this feature for free. But after that, you will need to own a Nintendo Switch Online account to be able to use that feature. And within that feature, you can share your screens, though the frame rate or whatever, from what we've seen, is really bad on that. Presumably because it's, essentially streaming somebody else's game. You can make their screen bigger, or you can make one of your friends' screens bigger, or whatever. There's lots of options to mess around with the chat feature. Seems really good. I mean, I figure it makes sense. Nintendo doesn't want to use third-party things, but, no one's been able to really communicate with their friends without, like, a phone. Jeez. Sorry. Anyway. So, I would say that is fair. So, there are some other things. So, on release, so the biggest issue is probably the camera, which it's coming with a camera because you can actually record yourself camera-wise. So, I believe, I'm not sure about the controller, but I know the Switch 2 will have a built-in microphone that should be able to hear you from at least, I don't know, I'd say 5, 10, maybe 10 feet away pretty clearly. And it's supposed to have noise isolation technology, so it won't pick up background noises, but it will pick up people talking. So if that's true, that's really good. And then also, if you want to, with the said chat feature, you can have your face in the bottom corner, right? So you can, wave to your friends or whatever, I guess. But this camera, it doesn't come with the Switch because it's sort of an optional thing anyway. This, essentially, a webcam is $50 by Nintendo. And then I can never say it right, but Hori is a company that works with Nintendo, and they're making a Piranha Plant themed one that's going to be, I think I heard it was going to be $35. So it's themed and it's cheaper, so probably won't be as good, but themed and cheaper. So but no, so whatever the current price for a wireless Nintendo Switch, what do you call it? Joy-Con? Right. No, that's not it. The controller. The Pro Controller. So to get a Nintendo Switch Pro Controller right now, I believe it's like $70 for one, which, I mean, they feel really nice, personally. At least the official ones. I don't like the way the non, like, Nintendo specifically brand ones feel. But the the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller is going to be like plus $10 to that, roughly speaking. That's generally what they're going for stuff. And let's get to the most important part and the most tricky part, the games. So it was confirmed that all the prices on average for Nintendo games will go for the Nintendo 2 and Nintendo 2, or the Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch 2 games are going to go up by $10 on average. So no more $60 games. Nintendo's cutting it. They're doing $70 games now. At least if they're, official Nintendo and stuff. Just like the core, Mario, Metroid, Pokemon. Not Pokemon. That's not made by Nintendo, so it wouldn't be part of that. Though I wouldn't put it past Pokemon to try and charge $70 for a mainline game. I personally like mainline games. Like the constant theming and how the battles work, I do like how they use Legends games to change the battle system and explore and expand upon it while doing lore and or interesting concepts in previous regions. But the mainline games will never change. They'll always be standard battle type, plus maybe gimmick. That's sort of the rule. I mean, they're mainline games. If they weren't basically the exact same, there would be no point to them being mainline games. Anyway, that's a whole nother tangent. So, the biggest issue with this is Nintendo is still doing their selective plus $10 games. So, Nintendo has this rating system, sort of. And so far, the only game I'm aware of that they've used it on has been Tears of the Kingdom. That's actually out. So, Tears of the Kingdom is $70 at base price. And, it's a Switch game, so. But I think it's fair because of the amount of work and the amount of content in that one game is so huge. And it's such a fun game. It's a sequel to Breath of the Wild, which is like one of the highest rated Nintendo games. Well, I might not say that. But Breath of the Wild is like sort of iconic if you think of Nintendo in recent times. Or just the Switch in general. But Tears of the Kingdom, its sequel, which in my opinion is better than the first one, which is actually usually quite difficult to pull off. Usually sequels are worse, but I think minus the nostalgia factor, it's better. Which, crazy, right? People are already having nostalgia for Breath of the Wild. Like, it doesn't capture the same feeling as being in the region for the first time. Well, yeah, that's the whole point. It's the same region, but there's different stuff all over the place now. And there's like 3 layers that you can go and explore. I don't know. Anyway, certain select Nintendo games, if they pass certain criteria, will be an additional $10, making them $80. Now, one of the examples that I can think of in more recent times, which isn't even out yet, is the Mario Kart World game, the new Mario Kart game that is a same-day release as the Nintendo Switch 2, and it looks incredible. Now, the issue with this is that there are different Nintendo Nintendo Directs for different countries, because different countries have different money systems and whatnot. So, one of the, I believe it was the UK Nintendo Direct had actual prices for digital and physical, and they had a €10 discrepancy in it. And so everyone is assuming, so that being said, a digital game, so digitally buying Mario Kart 8, or not Mario Kart 8, Mario Kart World, is supposed to be $70. But if you buy it physically, it would be $80. This to some people implies that through the way, because we only got one price in the American version, that being $80. This for some reason implies to people that that the Americans will have to pay $90 for a Nintendo Switch game, specifically Mario Kart World, Nintendo Switch 2, which is ludicrous. They're not doing that. From what I hear, and I could be wrong because I haven't really looked it up, people have said that it's actually, I don't want to say illegal, but it might be illegal in the United States to sell digital games or sell digital counterparts for less, or maybe just, I think there's not allowed to be a difference in price when it comes to digital and physical copies in America, from what I hear. I could be wrong, or they could be talking about a different country, but, and keep in mind, in different countries' currency, so keep in mind, in the other countries' Nintendo Directs, or maybe on the site, I don't remember, they actually do have alternative prices. Meanwhile, in the American one, we got one price. One. I think the idea is that Nintendo wants to make digital versions cheaper for people to buy. But because that's not allowed in America, they only had one price because it would be $80 in both locations, digitally or physically. There is another thing that they're doing called key cards. Key cards are like game cards, but they only hold a portion of the data for a video game. So it's a physical game cartridge you buy. To play the game, you have to have an internet connection, insert the key card, and let your Switch 2 download the update. And then you can play it. And keep in mind, to play it, you must have your key card inserted at when you are playing it. So, it's essentially a game card, but it doesn't contain all the data. People are saying this means Nintendo's just being cheap, or Nintendo's not exactly, Nintendo's essentially doing a Ubisoft where they're saying that they don't want people to own physical copies. I disagree, and I disagree because I don't think that's the reason. People always make it out to be, greedy company bad. But, I don't think that's the case. Nintendo established and this is similar thing with Mario Kart 8, or Mario Kart World. Nintendo had pre-established that games that they thought were top tier, better than the previous iteration of that game's franchise and or series, would, they expected that game to be so good, or there was so much content to play in that game, that they thought it was worth an extra $10. I kind of see that as fair, because they believe the game merits more money. They're saying that the game is so good that they can charge more for it because it's worth that much. Which, if all games were like that, a lot of, games on Xbox and PlayStation when they come out would, not be, say, $70, because that's the base price of games. Obviously, if they do bad, they'll go down real quickly, but that's not the base price. Some people are actually paying $70 for games that turn out to be crap. Nintendo, though, they always pump out the games they make, because they don't even pump them out. They take their time. The games that Nintendo makes are good, pretty much every time. in my opinion. Like, their core franchises, they don't really make bad games. And I'm not counting Pokemon because it's not directly made by Nintendo. It's made by Game Freak and the Pokemon Company. I'm talking core Nintendo, like Mario, Kirby, Legend of Zelda, Metroid. And any other ones that fall into that category that I can't think of or didn't mention. So, I think the reason these keycards are being used is for games that don't necessarily merit having a physical copy, or games that but, they do have weight, but they don't necessarily merit a full physical copy, or games that are too big to fit on a cartridge. Like, for instance, we already know that Cyberpunk 2077, which is coming to Switch 2, is going to be on one of these keycard cartridges. I wonder why a massive game would be on a keycard. I wonder why. I don't know how advanced cartridge technology is, but I'm assuming it doesn't exactly allow for a lot of space. That's all I'm saying. And, in a sense, these make for good gifts to give, in a sense. I mean, physical copies always make for good gifts to give, but, it brings more options, right? Because, if a game has a smaller fan base, but it's still a popular game, it could get a physical release. It could get a technically physical release on the Nintendo Switch 2, which is incredible, right? Because most games don't do that. I mean, the only one I could think of off the top of my head is maybe Deltarune. But they might actually have a physical release. But, making those cartridges can cost money. I mean, so, they're spending less money for things that will make less money. Is that not fair? I mean, and it technically makes for digital games that you can share with your friends. I mean, of course, with the new Switch 2 gimmick, you can share games with your friends anyway. But, it's a whole thing, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's more or less the same anyway, but the data will be on your Switch, I guess, which is kind of the important part. You know what I'm also thinking? They might have it this way because of the new Switch gimmick. So, the Switch 2 gimmick, or kind of gimmick, not necessarily, is that if your friend is playing a local multiplayer game and you want to play with them and you also have a Switch 2, I'm assuming this is a Switch 2 exclusive thing. I don't know if it's just going to be an update or not. I don't think so. I think it's a Switch 2 exclusive thing. But even if you don't own the same game as them, if you both have your Switches in the same room, you can do local play, but you don't have to share screens with them. You can, I'm assuming, have like how the DS and technically 3DS had wireless play, where you didn't actually need to own the game. Now, because certain games work certain ways, I'm assuming you might have to actually download something. So maybe having games downloaded onto your Switch now that your Switch 2 has 256 gigabytes at base is actually feasible and reasonable, right? Because you can always offload the games anyway, but it works out, right? Because if you have the game mostly downloaded, it's less information for your Switch to download off of the other one. I mean, the Switch 2 is supposed to have improved speeds for downloading as is, right? So that might have something to do with it, because I don't believe Nintendo mentions things for no reason. Like, they did mention that the Switch 2 had faster download speeds. They could just be saying that, but I think Nintendo knows what they're doing. I don't think they're going to be charging $90, or at least not in American dollars, so, for a game. So, and they've never stated they're going to be charging 90 US dollars. I don't know how much the euros translate into American dollars, but I'm fairly certain people need to stop spreading misinformation online about that. Look, I'm not saying Nintendo isn't greedy. They're a company. Companies are greedy. That's how they stay alive. But, you know, there's a line, clearly. There's clearly a line on how much greed a company can have. Nintendo's making a new console, and if you want to play Mario Kart World or whatever, get the bundle so it costs $50 instead of... Get the bundle with the Switch so it costs $50 instead of $80. That's all I really have to say about that. This is a whole situation. Jeez. Anyway, I've been home for a little bit, and I bought milk earlier, so I want to take it inside before my car heats up and the milk goes bad. So, also, I've kind of thrown my voice out from doing this, I guess. So, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Drive Home Podcast. I know this one is a bit more specific and tilted, but it's just so topical right now. I might even upload this around the scheduling of everything else, just get it out there. But, right now the Switch 2 and the prices for it are crazy for people. And people are not happy about it. All right. One last thing. So, there are upgrades for Switch 1 games that you use on the Switch 2. These upgrades, Nintendo said you would have to buy them. Here's the thing. If it's just a graphical upgrade or performance upgrade, there will be no price. It will be free like any other, like Access Enhanced games, except for GTA. I don't know why GTA does that. I think GTA and I guess maybe Ark Survival Evolved might be the only two that I can think of. If there aren't any others, I wouldn't know. But anyway, maybe there's PlayStation 5 games like that. I don't know. They tend to release 2 copies of everything to make more money. Anyway, what I am going to say is that... Geez, I was talking about the... Right, yeah. The only ones you will have to pay for will be the ones that actually add extra content to the game itself. I'm fairly certain the update for Tears of the Kingdom and I think Breath of the Wild with the weird navigation app is not going to be a thing that costs money. I guess Kirby and the Forgotten Lands will cost money, but if you own a Switch Online expansion pass or whatever, like Plus expansion pass, if you own the Plus expansion pass, you get access to all the Switch 2 extra content for free. So, well, free while you own it, I guess. I don't actually know the specifics, but I do know that much. So, that being said, people are being too hard on Nintendo, thinking the worst of them. Yes, greedy company. That's how companies stay alive. Does no one understand that? Like, okay. Like, yeah, let's just assume a company isn't greedy. That's crazy. That would be crazy. Like, I just think Nintendo's a better company than some other companies. Yeah, they might kind of disguise their greed, but at least they basically constantly make good games that are fun to play. Unlike other companies that happen to make games that either die within the first week of being out because people didn't because people pulled out once it didn't do as good as they wanted to, or straight up remove games from their digital libraries that you could buy, and then you just didn't have access to them anymore. Nintendo didn't do either of those things, I'm fairly sure. So, I don't know what to say. That's about it. Thanks for, again, thank you for listening to this episode of the Drive Phone Podcast. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, you don't have to. And please share why you think the way you do about the Switch 2 and its prices in the comments, because I don't really understand how people can just absolutely be 100% sure Nintendo's going to charge $90 for a game. Like, that's never happened. And if it has happened, it was because it was either 2 games in one, plus DLC, or some other combination of extra stuff tacked on at the end that was worth more money. So, like Scarlet and Violet, individually they're like $60. Adding on the DLC, they're both like $90 or something. Like, and they're mainline Pokemon games. Everyone's supposed to hate those or something. I liked them. They were fun. It was nice not having like a super evil organization. And the story was cute. And the ending was interesting. All in all, it was a really good game. I liked it. Yeah, there were some issues, but like, I mean, come on. It's like an open world game on the Switch. Like, what do you expect? I don't know. Plus, it's Pokemon. They've done like one open world thing before this that was like truly open world, and it was just, I mean, it was Sword and Shield. Like, there's like one company making this game, and they have the same one engine. The one engine that they have to make the Pokemon games for was made for top-down 2D games, basically. Like, I don't really understand why people are so complaining about it. It's like, you guys wanted them to make 3D games, but the 3D games aren't the 3D you wanted. Go cry and complain. I keep not ending this. I'm really upset about that. Sorry. Lots of complaints. Just around Nintendo. Just like, yeah, every company's a greedy company. That's how companies are. Do you know of a company that isn't greedy? It's called a non-profit organization. That is not a company. That is an organization of people who do things for the betterment of humanity. It is completely different from a gaming company. They make games to make money. Like, the whole thing is that they're making products to sell. Anyway, it's gone on for way too long. I thank you all for being here and listening to me ramble and be angry about people not really understanding anything. Because nobody's doing any research. They're like, well, it's just confirmed $90. We just want to yell at Nintendo for money freeze. We just want to yell at Nintendo, so we're just going to do that. No one's looking it up. It's like, if you look it up, look on their official site, watch the Nintendo of America Nintendo Direct. It says nowhere that they will ever charge $90 for a video game. Anywhere. So, don't just assume Nintendo's going to charge $90. And if they are going to charge $90, you can probably just blame the tariffs. Because, with tariffs, stuff becomes more expensive for people who live in the place with the tariffs gets us. But, that's all I'm saying. Thank you for listening. Sorry it got super crazy. I'm super sorry about that. I hope you all have a great next 24 hours. And as always, I'll see you next time I drive this podcast home. Bye.